Over the last few weeks, I have been updating you guys on the current outlook of this cycle and exactly what to expect with the market running up, having altcoins go crazy, and us making a ton of money. But in this video, I want to look at the lower time frame structure and really warn you guys ahead of time before this next move happens, because I do think that this is going to be a very significant opportunity for us, especially if we do prepare some stablecoin bags on the sidelines for this buying opportunity. Now, I want to go over a few things, and I want to start off this video with the UK because we have here from Coin Bureau that the UK scraps their 4-year crypto ban. The UK has lifted its 4-year ban on crypto exchange traded notes, reopening access for retail investors. This combined with everything happening around altcoin ETFs, I really do think that we're at that turning point where, it's starting to kind of focus a little bit more on the altcoin side of the market, but we're not there yet. We're not in the whole alt season aspect of this market just yet. And I've been warning you guys about this for some time now. And there is a few people out there posting regarding this, like for example, Crypto Rover. There's two posts here. There's this one and this one. The first one is Google Trends, right? We have been following Google Trends for quite some time, and we have here that interest in altcoins is still very low, not even close to the real alt season yet. And yeah, it's to be expected, especially when a lot of these altcoins, like for an example, XRP, right? In the last month, XRP has not made a single new high. And technically speaking, since going all the way back to July 13th, we have yet to create a new high on this chart. Now you might say, oh, well, that's because XRP sucks. No, it's not just XRP. It's a lot of these altcoins. Even Solana, if we're looking at Solana on the last year, Solana hasn't made a new high since going all the way back to January. XRP is one of the few outliers that have made a new all-time high, going off of, or not a new all-time high, a new high going off of their high from January of this year. A lot of altcoins are still stuck in the dips, if you will, with price action going all the way back to the beginning of this year. So you're talking about 9 months now of just sideways and downward pressure. So this has absolutely killed sentiment. A lot of people are just saying, oh, well, you know what? I'm done holding these altcoins. I'm done following these altcoins. I don't care about these altcoins. Update me when there's something exciting happening. And that's why we see sentiment around altcoins right now. And even in this market, technically speaking, even with Bitcoin hitting a new all-time high recently, nobody cares. Everyone is just kind of negative. They don't care. They, want their altcoins like XRP to make a new all-time high, and that's basically it. So until that happens, they do not care about anything happening in this space, which is why when it comes to the retail aspect, that's why we have retail just not caring at all about alt season. They don't care about altcoins. They don't care about alt season. They just are locked in on how negative the price action has been, and that has led to them being very negative, which I understand, right? We've been waiting forever for altcoins to make a new high, and XRP, like I said, is one of the few outliers in the space that has made a new high going off of, the January highs. So most altcoins, and there's a few even like XLM, that haven't made a new high in almost a whole year. So it's just been 12 months of stagnant price action, and we're just waiting and waiting and waiting. Now, during this time, by the way, let's go back real quick to BNB. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, look at BNB is telling us that we are in altcoin season, right? Well, BNB back in 2021 was also kind of a huge mover. It started to really move violently. Now, I will say this. BNB making a new high the way that it has and going absolutely crazy the way that it has as well is a huge signal of what's to come for altcoins. However, we're not yet in alt season. And even going off of a few charts, like for example, the total 2 ES, this is showing us that we're not in altcoin season just yet. Until this breaks to a new all-time high, we are not at that point in the market where we could say for certain, hey, alt season's here. So anyone that is calling for alt season to start right now, or, oh, it's starting right now, they need to be looking at this chart. I've also been outlining this even with dominance as well when it comes to Bitcoin and even Ethereum, and saying, listen, we're not in alt season yet until these charts break down. But during this time, there's definitely been a lot of excitement in the market. I mean, over the last 7 days, there has been a lot of great gains in the market as well. Like, for an example, Pancake Swap did start to have a nice jump. Again, this thing did break slightly over the 2024 highs, but has failed to kind of close over that. And looking at the all-time chart here, I mean, this thing is severely undervalued compared to what it was trading at back in 2021. So, some of these gains, they might look great. However, we're still so far away from new all-time highs on some of these charts. Also, Zcash was making some nice moves recently as well. In the last year, it's actually up 500+%. But the problem here is that, if we're looking at the all-time chart, going back to 2021, it still has a long way to go. So we're still focused on that, but there's definitely been a few nice gains out there, including even Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin recently today did surge past $124,000. It hit 124.5K. This is because of what the Fed was telling us at the FOMC minutes. So Bitcoin rose over 2% to 124.5K on October 8th, 2025, following the Federal Reserve's release of September FOMC minutes, indicating most officials expect further policy easing this year after the last month's quarter point cut. The dovish outlook amid concerns over employment risk and persistent inflation boosted trader optimism, with betting markets pricing a 96% chance of another cut this month and 2 or 3 more by the year end. The rally highlights Bitcoin's sensitivity to Fed's actions, fitting into the seasonal October pattern despite divided views within the committee. Now, we do know that another rate cut decision is going to be made towards the end of this month. That could definitely be a huge catalyst for Bitcoin and for the rest of the market. And if we're going over here, the probability of the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates again this month is now at 96+%. October 29th is going to be a big day to focus on. I said it in last night's video as well. The Fed could definitely shock the market in a huge way. However, before we see this, we could see a much bigger move in the market, and one that a lot of people are probably not expecting. Now, also over here, we do have a 68% chance of 3 rate cuts. So one in October and then another one in December. That will be 3 rate cuts to end off the year, just like back in 2024. And this is all from FOMC minutes. This is exactly what we got from the Fed. Now, this is great, and this will definitely support the market in a big way. But when it comes to the lower time frame structure, we are watching Bitcoin sell off currently. This is what the 1 day looks like. Now, what have I been saying over the last couple, days? Structure. We focus on structure. Specifically, we focus on higher highs and higher lows. This is Bitcoin on the 4-hour. This is our recent high. We now have a lower high. We have this low down here. The question is, do we create a higher low, or are we about to witness a lower low? If we do create a lower low, I do expect us to continue to sell off into 3 key areas. This is where we will look for bounces, because I'm not expecting a lot of these lows, like for example, this 119.9K region. I'm not expecting this to hold either. And the same goes with like the October 1st price action as well. So neither of those lows should hold, in my opinion. We should probably break down below them because they're not that strong. I'm looking at the highs going back to September. So this would be 117.7K. If we do see a nice bounce off of this level, it would be a good response to just, having that resistance hold as support. But if we don't bounce there, then we could potentially see like 115K to like $113,000. Anywhere within this region, and I know that it's a significant region on Bitcoin, anywhere within this region would be acceptable for a much larger pullback to happen before we have that big push to the upside. And you might say, well, Nick, didn't we already have a pullback back in September into the, end of September? Yeah, sure. Almost all of the second half of September, we were selling off. Yeah, we did have a pullback, but we also just rallied a significant amount. I mean, you're talking about we'll just go off of the lows, right? This was on Bitcoin a 16% push to the upside. So having a drop in the market, which currently we only had a 4.39% drop, having like a 6% to almost like 9% or even potentially an 11% drop would not be out of the question. It's definitely something that is possible. We've had these sell-offs before, right after we've had such a significant rally, and this led to us having another big rally to the upside where we do create a new all-time high. So we need to prepare for this. We need to make sure that we are aware of bullish structure and how bearish structure looks as well. Currently speaking, we're still in neutral structure until we take out this low. The second that we lose like 120.6K, then we start to flip bearish on Bitcoin in the short term. Now, also during this time, when it comes to altcoins, we need to be aware of Bitcoin dominance, because I do think that this is going to have another little rally to the upside of 60% before we see that sell off. We did tap this level slightly, but I'm not dead set on this being topped out on this recent impulse. So we might have another retest of roughly like 60%. That would retest the resistance from August 17th and also August 23rd. So if we're looking at this, I would be watching for these highs to be retested. This could act as resistance. We might wick above it, and then we would have a sell-off. So during this time, with Bitcoin having a potential larger sell-off, with Bitcoin dominance rising to the upside, this could hurt altcoins in a big way at a time where some altcoins, like for example, let's go back to the list, XRP, right? XRP is already down significantly. It is losing, key support here. What are we looking at with XRP, as a major retest? Well, the main thing to focus on is maintaining the lows that we recently did hit. So I would like to see roughly like $2 and like 70 cents to like $2.76 hold. If we do lose that, it's not a big deal. Essentially, we would just retest the May highs, and that would be around $2.60. So anywhere within that gap would be welcomed, in my opinion, on XRP. But this is why we have to prepare for this, move to happen. And we need to be aware that this is a possibility. During this time, the best thing that I could say is just hold up some, stablecoins on the sidelines. If you don't have stablecoins on the sidelines, it's not a bad idea to prepare some to have on the sidelines. The reason why I say to have stablecoins on the sidelines as well, because a lot of people keep asking me, like, Nick, why do you stockpile, stablecoins on the sidelines? Why not just buy when the day of the crash happens? It's because a lot of these exchanges, right, they hold your money for certain periods of time. And some of them, you can't even utilize the funds until it fully clears. So having those stablecoins already on the sidelines prepared for the dip allows the transactions to go through a lot easier. Also, you could put in buy orders that get hit when you see that negative price action. So this is why I keep telling you guys to prepare for significant moves like this and have stablecoins on the sidelines at all times, because it just allows for ease of transacting and it ensures that you get in when we see that dip happen as well. So with that being said, just to summarize things, yeah, I'm expecting Bitcoin to have a larger sell-off here. I know everyone right now is very bullish and they think that Bitcoin just going to surge to, a new high here. But I think that we have a sell-off before we have that big push because of how significant this push to the upside was. We're also starting to lose some momentum here. So the sell-off first will happen, and then we will have that big push to the upside. But if you don't care about lower time frame structure and you don't really care about the short term, this is not anything to be concerned with. I still think that Bitcoin makes a new all-time high. Yet again, I think that Bitcoin runs to 150K plus. And also, I do think that we start to see altcoin season really show up towards the end of this month, because again, interest is at all-time lows. Nobody really cares about altcoins. Altcoins are very close to breaking out, which will lead to alt season officially being here. And already we're starting to see a few altcoins like BNB showing us the early signals that alt season could be very, very close. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on, because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.